The markets might get off to kind of a rocky start tomorrow. It's really going to be hard to judge that. But if you come back and listen again to the program at around 5 o'clock, we'll take a look at the pre-markets. We'll take a look at the things that are going to impact the markets during the rest of the week. And we'll try to, we'll have a chance at 5 o'clock to look at what Robinhood is saying about overnight with regard to Tesla. The tariff situation should not really hurt Tesla very much at all, if any at all, because of course the cars that are being shipped into Canada, the Tesla cars shipped into Canada, are not being shipped out of the United States. If Canada does decide to put a tariff on all electric cars coming in from into Canada from China, which would make some sense, I suppose, uh, they would be hurting some of their own plan, some of their own overall strategic effort to increase the number of electric cars being sold into Canada. So I'm not sure what the benefit of that would be. Anyway, what I want to do first, though, is I want to take a look at what AJ had to say the other day with regard to the Tesla earnings analysis. So, AJ goes into such depth because, that's what he's been doing his entire career. It's been his responsibility working for these investment banks to go and really dig deep, 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 deep. And so that's what he does. And so I wanted to take a look. He's now really done that in depth. Now, we'll have him back probably a week from Friday. It turns out he can't come this coming Friday. We'll have him a week from Friday, and he'll be taking a look at the 2025 picture as he sees it for Tesla in terms of profit and loss and maybe even some price targeting. As well as what he thinks is going to happen in the first quarter. So let's take a quick look here. He says, I'm quoting, I was correct in my prediction that investors would look past the numbers and focus on Tesla's future. Well, they were focusing on Elon Musk's sales job on Tesla's future, which, by the way, I agree with. He's a great salesman, and I think his sales job was great, and I think that's what he intends to do, and I think he will execute on most of it. He says this is an important observation and something to keep in mind for upcoming quarters, is that it's about the story. It's always been about the story. It's been about the story as long as I've been following. Remember, I only really started following in about 2017, I think, is the first time I rode in a Tesla and started getting excited, and then started writing the books, and then started this channel a little over 2 years ago. Number one, he says, Tesla is up 2.9. This is on Thursday, I think, in mildly positive market, despite a significant sequential decrease in financial performance, and it confirms his prediction was correct. Fourth quarter numbers won't matter much as long as they stay within a reasonable range and as long as Elon's management provides a strong outlook. Tesla traded up on strong volume. Note that the lower trading range at the 370 to 380 mark, yeah, it's not going to ever go back to that again, is what he says. So then he goes on. He says, here's the detailed financials. He says, why does the detailed financial stuff that he's going to talk about matter? He says, an accurate assessment of Tesla's financial performance provides an important vantage point from which to assess the share price together with the sentiment, the euphoria, at any given point in time. Over time, this improves investor intuition as to the likely reaction of its share price. This doesn't guarantee success, but significantly increases everyone's hit rate, as was demonstrated on Wednesday, when the market quickly looked past the modest headline miss and looked to the AI product future. However, the miss was, under the hood, significantly larger than what was realized by countless commentators on X and elsewhere. As Tesla investors, we got lucky that the Tesla Q community is so incompetent and or receives so little attention anymore after previously spreading so much FUD. This makes them ineffective in highlighting true weaknesses in the numbers. So let's take a look. He says, number one, FSD revenue recognition continues to exceed guidance, and the beat is increasing. So that's positive. Number two, 2024's operating cash flow increased year on year to just under 15 billion, but full cash flow decreased on a substantial increase in CapEx. So there was more CapEx spend, but that's a good thing. You want to see, if the company has the cash, you want to see them spending it. Sitting on 30 something billion dollars is fine if you want to keep that kind of a reserve, but you want to also see your company spending the money on the future. That's what you're paying the big PE for. Number three, Tesla's CapEx guidance beyond a few quarters is consistently understated. I'm good with that too. Increase it as you see necessary and you see opportunities. Tesla has the highest ROIC, return on invested credit of return on invested, yeah, return on invested investment. Invested cash. Why can't I remember the word for that? Anyway, they get a huge return on the amount of their investment. Just look at their return on the AI investment they're making versus anybody else's return on these chips that everybody's buying. Number five, finished goods and energy dropped significantly in fourth quarter. This is indicative of an upcoming sequential deployment dip as we experienced before. The CFO also hinted to this. Hence, get ready for deployments below 11 gigawatt hours. Okay. I'm going to buy that for now because I don't have anything to tell me otherwise. I would kind of anticipate that it's going to be going up given Shanghai and given that it should balance out over time. Anyway, we'll see. Number six, charging network increase continues at a healthy pace, and supercharging team headcount that was cut in second quarter left relatively little impact. I'm wondering if AJ forgot that a lot of those people were hired back. A bunch of them were hired back. The leadership, all but the top leadership wasn't, but a lot of the leadership, a lot of the managers were hired back, and a lot of the people were hired back. But I think they, probably ended up with fewer overall. Number seven, warranty reserve continues to strengthen on a per vehicle basis pre and post inflation adjustment. So I think it's Larry Goldberg that has talked about this for a long time, that they carry a huge warranty reserve, which is something which at some point they may have to incorporate into the bottom line as profit because it's just too much. Anyway, he says, in case you've missed it, there's a lot of, I'm sorry, that was the end of AJ's analysis. Now let's talk about tariffs. Let's talk about some reality here. In case you missed it, people are talking about tariffs. Okay, now remember, this is a reminder. Most of you already know this. I'm not bragging or complaining. I've been involved in import-export since I was 23, all right? I've been buying and selling goods on 6 continents. I haven't been buying on 6, I haven't been selling on 6, but between buying and selling, it's incorporated 6 out of the 7 continents. I've dealt with tariff problems a lot, hiked container prices a lot, currency valuation issues a lot, movement of manufacturing, which started when I was young, it was in Japan, then to Taiwan and South Korea, then to China, and then now to Mexico, Vietnam, India, and Africa. So I've been involved as product that's been moved all over the world. I've done an entire video one time, or a part of a video talking about the movement. A movement of manufacturing goes to what they call the countries that will do the dirty work. Okay, and as countries switch to cleaner and cleaner, as they get more and more wealthy, they switch to cleaner and cleaner work. And so Taiwan has no interest in building little, plastic goodies and machining things and whatnot anymore. They want to do high tech. And that's true for South Korea. So then it moves to China. As China gets rich, it moves on to Vietnam and et cetera. Okay. These all impact prices. And you have to always be nimble enough to be able to go where the right price is if your market demands a certain pricing, if there's not a lot of elasticity. Remember, elasticity is not just about being smarter or better than the other person in terms of the product. Some products just go away. Okay, something that sells at $4.99 and you raise it to $5.99, people just stop buying it. They just stop buying it. It's not like, okay, they'll buy less. No, it just stops. I've seen this, I can't tell you how many times. Now, Trump also, this is a reminder, but maybe you haven't thought about this. He's a builder. He's built all over the world. As he has been building all over the world, I'm sure that he can match my record or beat my record in terms of buying and selling on 6 continents. He understands trade. He understands import, export. He understands tariffs, all the things I just went through. He gets it, 100% gets it. He knows the nuances. He knows that this is extremely complex. Okay. You can't just raise tariffs 10% across the board unless all you're looking for is income from those tariff increases. Even then, you can't be guaranteed that you're going to get an income from those tariff increases, because if you do the tariff on China, people will just potentially move it to India. I mean, then, okay, so you put a 10% tariff on India, maybe that product just won't sell anymore. Anyway, it is possible under the current situation of a 25% increase on most products out of Canada and 10% on oil, that your $12 bottle of syrup will now cost $13.50. That's possible, but maybe you won't care. Maybe you won't care that it went up $1.50, and you'll just buy it anyway. Or maybe you'll choose to eat oatmeal instead of pancakes. That could happen, and you'd probably be better off. A gallon of gas might go up 5 cents in some states, according to the resources that I've been looking at. It won't go up in 5 cents in all states. It might go up in 5 cents in some states, and it might not go up at all because people will shift and do things in order to keep that from happening. But overall, I just suggest you buy an electric car, then you won't have to worry about it. Jeff Lutz did an extensive take today about the impact on Tesla, specifically from the tariffs. He says there's almost no impact at all on Tesla, but other U.S. car makers will be hard hit. If these tariffs stay in place, they've got some real problems. They make stuff in Canada. They make some parts in Canada, some parts in the Rust Belt, and some of those parts go back and forth. They make something here, send it to Canada, it gets assembled with other things, gets shipped back to the United States, other parts get added, get sent back. I mean, it goes back and back. It's crazy business. But anyway, some of those things could have an impact in terms of the final price of the vehicle. Well, of course, if the ICE cars made by the legacy car companies in the United States, if those prices go up and Teslas stay the same or go down, that's going to be advantage Tesla. Anyway, I know you don't expect, I know you don't expect these tariffs. I don't expect these tariffs to take place at all. Okay. And I certainly don't think that if they do, they will last. Maybe they go into effect on Tuesday and they're done by Thursday. But here's some thoughts that Brian Wang had this morning. He says Trump is re-anchoring a global trade. I made this point a week and a half ago. He says it's time for the rest of the countries in the world to put on their big boy pants, grow up, not be as they say, sucking at the teat of America. We've been codependent with you long enough, and it's time for the rest of the countries to carry their own, take care of themselves. We're no longer going to be, well, at least under this administration, we're no longer going to be codependent. He says there will be long-term tariff levels. Think of the first-term China trade war that first term meaning Trump's first term, and the shift after. Biden could have taken these tariffs away. He could have taken those down, but he didn't. In fact, he raised some of them even more. So some of this, again, might be about collecting money for the Treasury. Some of this is going to be about protecting U.S. goods. Some of it is going to be designed to get other things done. Sometimes last time it was about getting more protection of our intellectual property in China. Some of it was about being more fair in terms of trade, having them take off tariffs or take off protectionism so that some of our product can flow in. As Trump pointed out last week, in Europe, it's impossible to sell American-made cars there. They just have too many restrictions and ways of keeping the U.S.-made cars out. And it's just, and agricultural products as well. Anyway, he says, this is, again, Brian Wang saying, he will tariff anyone, even especially the three biggest trading partners, because what is going to have more impact? Yes, there are friends, and yes, we have to be a little careful. We want their economies to thrive. It's better to have a prosperous neighbor sitting next to you than a neighbor that's not prosperous, and that therefore might be even more in trouble than Mexico is. It's hard to imagine. But Mexico is getting, actually, in some ways, getting better and better as they become a manufacturing center, actually, replacing Canada. I mean, sorry, China, rather, as a major manufacturing center for all of Latin America and the world. Anyway, so he says, look, they're the biggest trading partners. That's where you're going to do the most work. Number two, I believe what's going to happen is they're going to have a big powwow, and it'll take them 3 months, and they'll figure all this out, and then we'll have a new world order, at least with regard to the two of them. He says the new world order is not free trade. It will be tariffed trade. Number three, the new steady state will be whatever is to the U.S. benefit based on the current considerations. And the current considerations are economic, geopolitical, technological, and political. I think he left one out, and that is strategic. This is something I talk a lot about on this channel. If you haven't been listening to this channel, we need to protect strategic industries. The chip deal, that was the one good thing that Biden did his whole time in office, but we need to make chips here. We need to be energy self-sufficient. We need to be good at making all the things that go into energy, even including solar panels. We need to have rare earths being mined here. These are not just economic considerations. These are strategic considerations. And by the way, strategic means both from a military standpoint as well as from an economic standpoint. You don't want your economic competitor to be able to freeze you out on some rare earth because you're not making them here. Okay, this is not good policy. All right, not all jobs are equal. According to Brian, Trump will get into the heads of leaders of companies and countries to consider his priorities and localize production. Yeah, so Trump is renting headspace right now, or I guess that's how the saying goes. Number four, the U.S. has 3 times more leverage against Canada and Mexico because 70 and 80% of their economies are based on export versus 30% of U.S. Actually, I think he's talking about 70 to 80% of their export business goes to the United States. Only 30% of the U.S. export business goes to them. So it's like, in terms of our overall economy, our export to Canada and Mexico, 3%. 3% of the entire economy is our exports to them. I mean, I think it's both import and exports. It's around 3%. Number five, it is also a negotiation against GM, Ford, and other car companies. I'm not sure what his point is there. I'd have to ask Brian to illuminate that one more. Anyway, he thinks that most tariffs will eventually be in the 10 to 25% range after 4 to 18 months as this new world order gets reorganized, and that this would be a partial replacement for the IRS for income taxes, and then it will take some kind of a sales tax or consumption tax or something to replace IRS completely, and that is what's Trump's plan, and that alone is interesting. He says specific companies will be forced to choose to build in the U.S. As a result of all of this. So I'll have some comments on that in a minute. And he says the first term trade war with China reset the relationship. Tariffs were kept, and those tariffs were all kept. Nothing was changed under the Biden administration. So this is me now, tariffs or increases are one-time hits. Sometimes they decrease over time. Supply chains shift. Canadian dollar and pesos devaluations can reduce the impact. Oh, this might be him saying this. Which I agree with every word he said so far. Canadian dollar and peso devaluation can reduce the impact. Some goods can still be accessed via purchase by tourists who return with them. Syrup and alcohol are examples, but not agricultural products. So the chaos continues. But what I do want to say to you is that this is the chaos in all of this chaos. Maybe you would rather have it done less chaotically. Maybe you're perfectly fine with the chaos. I did a poll and found out that most of the people that follow me on X, at least, are perfectly happy with the chaos, perfectly happy with the directionality of what Trump is trying to accomplish, whether that's regarding the tariffs or whether that's regarding other things. As I have mentioned over and over and over again, we will see shifts. There will be shifts in the international world order in terms of trade. Some of these shifts will not be smart. Some of them will be smart. But you do have choices as a consumer to not buy. You have choices as a consumer to buy less. You have choices as a consumer to buy American. even if it costs you more. You know, sometimes what will happen though, and I think this is important to take into consideration. If you take something like syrup, which is not strategic, and you say, okay, we're going to force people to buy, we make lots of syrup in the United States. And let's say we force all of that syrup manufacturer in the United States because we put such restrictive tariffs on the Canadian syrup that they can't compete. Well, now all of a sudden, the US syrup makers are under less pressure from the competition. If they're under less pressure from the competition, that means that quality might go down, prices will rise. There won't be any reasons to be as effective and efficient if you don't have that continuing pressure. Now, there'll still be pressure from the various syrup manufacturers, and that can, you know, keep pressure on for quality and keep pressure on for lower prices. And it should work that way. But the fewer competitors, as we think of in capitalism, the fewer competitors, the higher the price and the less the quality. So these are the kinds of nuances that I believe Trump understands. But in the early going here, he's taking a broadsword, he's, you know, hitting everything at once, and then we'll see how that all kind of pans out in the end. All right, so later on today, we will have the Monday morning show, which you guys know what that is, I think, by now, where we talk about all the things that are going to be happening this week. We've got the jobs numbers all week long, JOLTS and the ADP, and then on Friday the government job statistics. Be wonderful to see if the job statistics get better in terms of their reporting as we get into the Trump administration and DOJ paying attention to how that's even being done. I hope we could all hope that happens. Yeah, a little sidebar. You know, there seems to be a lot of people that are all concerned about Trump and Musk now having access to the Treasury to go in and look at the checks that are being written and dispersed. They're worried. Who are these people that have this ability to now look at these checks? Folks, if you're worried about that, think about who's been watching them now. And the reality is that we have reporting, clear-cut reporting that says that the people that are currently deciding to send out those checks are not paying any attention to who's on the terror list. They're not paying any attention to who is on the fraud list. They said they know that they're sending checks out to known terrorists and known fraudsters. This is what's happened. So you think the Musk boys might be a little better at deciding whether or not some of those. Now, they won't be able to decide. Keep that in mind. They can only suggest, recommend. They can't be the decision maker. So the Treasury Secretary will get the information from what the Trump people are the Musk people are telling him. He'll get that information, and then he can decide, oh yeah, you're right, stop sending out to these folks. Anyway, that was just an aside. So that's coming on tonight, and then there will be a program at 7:45 as usual. That might be Phil Basel. It might be me answering your questions. So put lots of comments in the comment section right now in case I do a comment program tonight at 7:45. All right, I think that's all I've got for you right now. It has been great talking to you.